What if the future of smartphones didn't arrive with a bang, but with a quiet, nostalgic snap? That's the feeling the Motorola Razr Fold stirred when it first appeared, a device that didn't just introduce a new category, but revived a memory. For many people across the English-speaking world, the word razor carries weight. It recalls a time when phones weren't just tools, they were statements. The original Razr V3 was sleek, metallic, and impossibly cool. It lived in pockets and purses, flipped open with confidence, and closed conversations with a satisfying click. So when Motorola brought that legacy back as a foldable smartphone, expectations weren't just high, they were emotional. At first glance, the Razr Fold felt like a paradox. Closed, it was compact, almost delicate, slipping easily into your palm or pocket. Open it, and suddenly it transformed into a full-sized smartphone, tall and immersive. That simple act, flipping it open, felt meaningful. In a world where most phones demand the same swipe, tap, and glance, the Razr Fold asked you to engage differently. It made you feel something. And that was its first triumph. But beneath the charm and nostalgia, there was a deeper story unfolding. The Razr Fold wasn't just a throwback, it was one of the earliest bold steps into the foldable future. It stood at the edge of innovation, where ambition meets uncertainty. Let's be honest, first-generation technology is rarely perfect. And the Razr Fold is no exception. The foldable display, arguably the heart of the device, was both mesmerizing and fragile. Flexible screens were still in their infancy, and you could sense that in the way the phone behaved. There was a subtle crease along the middle, visible at certain angles, and a quiet awareness that this wasn't just glass, it was something more delicate, more experimental. You didn't handle it carelessly. You treated it with a kind of respect. Yet, that fragility didn't diminish its appeal. If anything, it enhanced it. Because you knew you were holding something new, something that hadn't been perfected yet, but dared to exist anyway. Performance-wise, the Razr Fold didn't aim to dominate. It wasn't built to crush benchmarks or outperform flagship rivals. Its processor was solid, but not top-tier. Multitasking worked, apps ran smoothly, but power users might have noticed the limitations. Still, that was never the core of its identity. You didn't buy the Razr Fold for raw performance. You bought it for the experience. And what an experience it was. The external display, small but surprisingly capable, allowed users to check notifications, reply to messages, control music, and even take selfies without opening the device. It wasn't just a secondary screen, it was a window into a new way of interacting with your phone. Suddenly, not everything required unfolding the device. It added a layer of convenience, but also a sense of playfulness. It made everyday actions feel intentional. That's something modern smartphones often lack. Over the years, they've become incredibly powerful, but also predictable. The Razr Fold broke that pattern. It introduced friction, yes, but meaningful friction. The kind that makes you more aware of how you use your device. And in doing so, it reintroduced a sense of connection. For many users, especially those who remembered the original Razr era, this device wasn't just about technology, it was about emotion. It was about revisiting a feeling, but through a modern lens. That fusion of past and future gave the Razr Fold a unique identity in a crowded market. Of course, no honest discussion would ignore its shortcomings. Battery life, for one, was a challenge. The compact form factor limited how much power Motorola could pack inside, and it showed. Heavy users often found themselves reaching for a charger before the day was done. It wasn't a deal-breaker for everyone, but it was a reminder that innovation often comes with trade-offs. Then there was the price. At launch, the Razr Fold was expensive, arguably more expensive than what it offered in terms of specs. For some, it felt like paying a premium for nostalgia and novelty. And in a way, that's exactly what it was. This wasn't a phone built for the masses. It was built for early adopters, for enthusiasts, for people willing to invest in a glimpse of the future. And that future? It wasn't fully formed yet. But that's precisely why the Razr Fold matters. Because it dared to begin. It challenged the idea that smartphones had reached their final form. It reminded the industry, and consumers, that there was still room to experiment, to reimagine, to take risks. Without devices like the Razr Fold, the foldable phones we see today, more durable, more refined, more powerful, might not exist in the same way. It was the first step in a longer journey. And first steps are rarely perfect, but they're always important. Looking back now, the Razr Fold feels almost like a prototype that escaped into the real world. A bold concept wrapped in a beautiful shell, carrying both the excitement and the imperfections of something new. It wasn't trying to be the best phone on the market. It was trying to change the conversation. And it did. Today's foldables owe a quiet debt to that early effort. Every smoother hinge, every creaseless display, every improved battery, they all trace back, in some small way, to that moment when Motorola decided to bring back the Razr, not as it was, but as it could be. So, is the Motorola Razr Fold a great smartphone? That depends on how you define great. If greatness is measured by specs, performance, and practicality, then maybe it falls short. But if greatness is about impact, about courage, about redefining what's possible, then the Razr Fold absolutely earns its place. It made people look again. It made people feel again. And in a world of endless upgrades and incremental changes, that's something truly rare. Thank you for taking the time to read this piece. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most fascinating moments in smartphone history, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more thoughtful stories, insights, and tech explorations. See you in the next one.